Danny.
Best situation a rookie quarterback that went #1 in the draft has ever been in. We've talked about that all offseason. In regards to can they make the playoffs, realistically they got to get to their bye at sitting 4-2 and get to Thanksgiving sitting 6-3. I mean, if you look at their first 9 or 10 or so games, you can sit there and go, okay, can they get to the bye 4-2 and maybe say Houston and the Rams? Those are really difficult games. But I think their other 4 games, Tennessee, the Colts, the Panthers, those are winnable. And then they get to the bye and they have the Commanders, the Cardinals, and the Patriots. Can they rip off 3 straight in that situation? Because if you look at their final 8 games, you could realistically sit there and go, can you find 2 for me? Can you find 3? Those final 8 games are absolutely brutal stretch-wise. So, Greeny, to your question, can they make the playoffs? They can. But they got to get to Thanksgiving sitting at like 6-3 for them to make a realistic run with the back half of that schedule.
Start fast with the young players, which is obviously not easy to do. It's not inconceivable. Quickly, Dan, from a quarterback perspective, everyone in Chicago will look you directly in the face and recite this stat right off the top of their heads. They have never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards. The Decatur Staleys didn't have a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards in the late 1920s before they became the Chicago Bears. Is this kid going to be the first one to do it, and can he do it this year?
Yes. I don't see it this year, no. Number 1, Shane Waldron, their offensive coordinator, comes from we want to be balanced and run the football situation, the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan tree. Number 2, there's only been 5 quarterbacks to do it as rookies. Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, Jameis Winston, Justin Herbert, C.J. Stroud. And a lot of those guys had a little bit more of we want to chuck it up and down the field type of mindsets. I don't think that's going to be the scheme. It's a defensive-minded head coach. Now, CJ did it last year, but he did it by 100 yards. So it's a rarity to be able to do it. Can he? Yes, I do not think that's going to be the style that's suited for Chicago this season.
Yeah, I look at particularly the Herbert comparison, right? That stuck out to me because when I spoke with Bears GM Ryan Poles this offseason and asked him, were there any moves you made that once you decided it was going to be Caleb, that now you're making a move about him? And he said, yeah, Keenan Allen. Because of what Keenan Allen was for Justin Herbert in Herbert's rookie season with the Chargers. So I'm not necessarily saying that equates to the same level of passing volume, Dan, but I think like they're looking at that as a specific helper for the rookie quarterback because of his track record doing just that.
Yeah, 2 things real quick. 1, he's thrown for 4,000 yards. I think once in college, Caleb did it, and he did it on 500 attempts. I don't see him throwing the ball 500 times in the NFL. And if you look at that list of the 5 guys that have done it, I think really most of those guys did a ton in structure. Like CJ was in structure. Jameis was in structure. That's not necessarily the most glamorous aspect of Caleb's game.
Not all those guys had 17 games to do it either.
But fair enough. That's another good point. Very quick final word, D-Wood. Go, quick.
Yeah, listen, I don't think it's going to happen for 2 reasons. 1, Shane Waldron, like Dan talked about, his play calling style. But 2, Chicago Bears defense. Okay, if they continue with the way they played the second half of the season last year, they're going to be in every game, and that's going to allow you to call plays and not have to throw the ball all over the field.
Yeah, so that's actually the best point right there that they made in the final second of this clip, is that if the defense is legit and they continue that momentum, then you are going to be asking Caleb to kind of go out and win you those games. It'll just be a little bit different thing. I think 4,000 yard passing is going to get a little bit more common just because of the structure of the NFL as a whole and the philosophy behind it and just the rules. I think it'll just become progressively more and more common and less impressive. But I think we get bogged down. The reason why I wanted to kind of emphasize this clip more than anything is because we get bogged down with these numbers, right? We equate so much with these numbers as being great, or if you don't hit these numbers or not, right? It's like if a quarterback goes 17-0 and is only throwing for 200 passing yards, they're like, well, it has nothing to do with him. He only has 200 passing yards, right? And it's like Patrick Mahomes has won a lot of games and Super Bowls not throwing for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. So you can win and be a great quarterback in many different ways. Volume does not equate to greatness. That's just a reality because we have plenty of quarterbacks. Jameis Winston was on that list, right? I'm sorry, Jameis Winston is not a great quarterback to me. He never was a great quarterback to me. So it's just, not that impressive to me. Cam Newton, I know people are very hot and cold on Cam Newton. People either love him or hate him. I think he was a really good quarterback, and he had his moments of being elite, but he was not a consistent quarterback. So I don't know why we automatically equate with such automatic high numbers means clearly you're great. And that's why they always try to act like Dak Prescott is like the second best quarterback in the NFL, because they're like, look at his numbers. And it's like, look how he's getting those numbers. It matters. So I do think in hindsight, I may have said earlier, but I think that in an earlier video that Caleb will get 4,000 yards. The more I think about it, and like what Woody said, it does make it potentially be a little bit harder, and it depends on the play calling and what they're looking to do. But it wouldn't surprise me that if their defense is legit, and if Caleb is exactly as advertised, I don't want to say that they're going to be running the score up, but they are going to be having Caleb get comfortable and throw the ball all over the field, right? If there's certain games that Caleb is just cruising and really showing who he is, it's like it's going to be, I don't want to say practice, that's too strong of a word, but they're really going to like lean into that. They're going to want him to get, especially earlier in the season, to get as comfortable as he possibly can, right? And I think that will then kind of potentially help beef his numbers up. Again, similar to what we see Dak Prescott do in some of these runaway games, right? I think that's what could end up happening. I think there could be a handful of games like that, or even like Jordan Love against, ironically, the Dallas Cowboys in the playoff games. I think there could be some of those games where they could really just put up some big numbers. And then if it ends up balancing out, like, who knows? Because then also, I want to take it back to the schedule. Because, listen, I'm not going to go through every single game, but they talk about this second half of the season being brutal, right? In terms of what the numbers look like from the first half of the season, right? Who knows? I have no idea what the score is against the Titans is going to be. I really don't. But we know we know with a strong level of confidence that those, week 11 onward, it's going to be tough games, right? Even if you're not impressed with the Vikings, you still know that that's a divisional game. It's going to be, tough and physical, right? Nobody wants to lose that game, no side. So we know the 49ers are going to be good. The Lions are going to be good. The Packers are going to be good. Again, if you're a Bears fan, you're like, I don't want to hear that, but they are. They're going to be good. It's just a reality. And because of that, we don't know what those games are going to look like. Is it going to be a super low scoring, hard, gritty, physical, cold weather game? Is it going to be 13 to 10? Like, what's it going to be? Is it going to be 21 to 17? Or is it going to be a shootout? Is it going to be a 35-32 game? Right? I have no idea, because we talk about the defenses being really great, but like, listen, the Lions should have a very potent offense, and so should the Packers. So then you are going to be relying on Caleb to be Caleb at that point, especially if he's proven to be that in, weeks 1 through 10 or whatever. So you just don't know. And who knows what the 49ers defense looks like at that point. Is that 49ers? Is at 49ers? That should be a warmish, coolish night, So like, I just think that you have the potential that some of those really tough games, we kind of automatically assume that it's going to be tough games. And so it could potentially be low scoring. And we look at maybe like a younger team of not being able to like kind of handle a shootout or some of these high volume type games. And I just think that, again, if Caleb is as advertised and the Chicago Bears are as advertised, I think those games could be a lot higher scoring, because that the Packers are going to put up points. The Lions will put up points. The 49ers will put up points. So you're going to have to rely on Caleb and that offense to put up points. So it's just definitely possible that he does get over the 4,000 yards. If anything more, because of that gauntlet of games in the second half of the season. So I think even if he's just at a modest pace in the first half of the season, then I think there would be a lot of shootouts and a lot of reliance on Caleb to kind of get the job done. So really interesting stuff. As I said in the previous video, I can't wait for the speculation to end. We are so close. We're like a little over a month away from like actually having like true football content to discuss, rather than trying to guess what the heck week 14 is going to look like before we've even seen Caleb take a snap in the NFL. We are so close, but I really can't wait, and I'm excited for it. But I'm curious, what are your guys' expectations for Caleb, and do you think that he can indeed actually get to 4,000 yards, and does it even matter, honestly, at this point? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.